The unexpected encounter. Jack's life had become a series of monotonous routines that offered little relief. Humanity had reached the stars, but he was far from enjoying the luxury of space travel. His small apartment in New Boston, Earth's largest spaceport city, barely held together. The once pristine walls had worn down, cracks spreading through the plaster, while the view from his broken window was a constant reminder of the worlds he would never see. Out there in the sky, wealthy individuals soared through space on private yachts and lived on gleaming space stations, but Jack was grounded, struggling just to get by. It was another ordinary morning, one that Jack had become all too familiar with. The faint hum of the spaceport's activities outside his window reverberated through the walls, blending with the distant rumbles of spacecraft taking off. A low, rhythmic sound that was, at times, the only reminder that anything outside of his tiny, decaying room was still moving forward. The artificial sunlight, which had a rather artificial glow, streamed in through his cracked window and bathed the room in a pale yellow hue, an attempt to mimic the sun's warmth, but it only felt cold against his skin. Jack stretched, feeling his stiff muscles protest after another restless night spent battling the weight of his life circumstances. He checked the time. 3 days, just 3 days left until the rent was due, and he had a mere 18 credits in his pocket. His landlord was a businessman who only saw tenants as a source of income. The demands were always high, and Jack couldn't even afford a decent meal, let alone the 500 credits required to keep his apartment. His stomach growled as he walked toward the small kitchenette, where a lonely half-empty can of beans waited for him, a staple of his diet for far too long. As he sat down to eat, Jack couldn't help but reflect on the futility of it all. He had watched humanity's rise with both admiration and bitterness. Space was supposed to be a new frontier, a place of boundless opportunity, yet it had only deepened the gap between the wealthy elite and the struggling masses. Jack was stuck in a cycle he couldn't break, a prisoner in his own city, with no way to rise above his station. But still, despite it all, Jack dreamed. He dreamed of one day standing among the stars, leaving the planet behind, and escaping this suffocating life. With a sigh, Jack grabbed his worn-out work uniform and headed to the spaceport where he worked for a cleaning service, the only job that seemed to pay enough to keep him from starving. As he trudged toward the transport station, the sprawling city of New Boston spread before him, a mix of decaying buildings, towering skyscrapers, and gleaming vessels taking off into the sky. Everywhere he looked, wealth was flaunted, while the majority of the population fought to survive. The spaceport was where the rich came to play, where luxury ships and private yachts were serviced, but it was a world where Jack remained invisible. His job was simple. He cleaned ships. He scrubbed the exteriors of vessels belonging to beings who could spend more in a day than he would make in 10 lifetimes. Jack had spent countless hours washing the sleek exteriors of luxury yachts, polishing their windows, and removing the stains left by space debris. The work was menial, but it paid enough to scrape by. That morning, as Jack was cleaning the exterior of a particularly grand private yacht, he noticed something unusual. He was perched on a cleaning platform, slowly working his way along the side of the vessel, when a flicker of movement caught his eye. Inside, through the massive windows, he saw a figure, a tall alien, their skin a deep blue, sitting alone in what appeared to be a luxurious lounge. The alien's features were elegant, their shape almost ethereal. But it wasn't the alien's appearance that caught Jack's attention. It was the unmistakable glimmer of tears running down the alien's cheeks. Silver tears, glowing faintly in the low light of the room. Jack froze, staring at the alien through the glass. It was strange. He had never seen an alien cry before. What did it mean? Was it the same as human tears? Perhaps it didn't mean anything at all, but there was something about the scene that struck a deep chord within him. Here was someone who, on the surface, had everything: wealth, luxury, and power. But beneath it all, they appeared to be as lonely as he was. The alien's face seemed to carry an indescribable sadness, and for a brief moment, Jack felt a profound connection to this being. Someone from another world. Jack should have moved on. It wasn't his business after all. He wasn't paid to watch the lives of the rich and powerful from the outside, and he certainly wasn't paid to get involved in their personal matters. Yet, something held him there. Something made him linger, staring at the alien in that moment of vulnerability. As he was about to look away and continue his work, the alien suddenly looked up, their eyes meeting Jack's. Jack's heart skipped a beat. The alien's eyes were wide, 4 of them, glowing faintly. It was as if they had been waiting for this moment, waiting for someone to notice. For a heartbeat, time seemed to slow. Then, without warning, the cleaning platform Jack was standing on shifted, moving under some unseen force, and he was pulled toward the ship's airlock. His pulse quickened. The platform moved with precision, as if guided by an invisible hand, docking gently with the ship. "What the?" Jack murmured under his breath, his thoughts racing. He didn't know what was happening, but his feet were no longer on solid ground. The airlock doors cycled open in front of him, and he instinctively took a step back. But before he could retreat, a voice, calm and melodic, echoed inside his head. "Please, would you come inside? I have a business proposition that could solve both our problems." The voice wasn't coming from the alien in front of him. It was coming directly into his mind. Jack's knees went weak as the reality of the situation settled in. This was unlike anything he had ever experienced. An invitation from a mysterious alien who could read his thoughts, and it was not just an invitation. It was an offer. A deal. Jack hesitated. He knew he should refuse. Entering a private vessel without authorization could cost him his job. But then again, what did he have to lose? He was already on the verge of losing everything. His job, his apartment, his dignity. What was one more risk? With trembling hands, Jack stepped forward, crossing the threshold into the unknown. Little did he know, the moment he entered that alien ship, his life would change in ways he could never have imagined. This wasn't just about cleaning ships anymore. Jack was about to enter into the strangest contract of his life, one that would challenge everything he thought he knew about the universe and his place within it. The alien, who introduced themselves simply as Blue, had a problem, one that their immense wealth could not solve. They were lonely, isolated from their home cluster due to political differences. Their species was naturally telepathic and empathic, meaning they needed constant emotional connection to maintain mental health. But exiled from their people, Blue was cut off from the very thing that kept their mind stable: companionship. Blue shared their story with Jack, and the proposal they made was simple yet audacious. In exchange for Jack's company, for him to live aboard the ship as a companion, Blue would pay off all of Jack's debts and set him up with a comfortable lifestyle. They wanted him as someone to talk to help them understand human culture and emotions, something they had been missing for far too long. It sounded too good to be true. But as Jack stood in that luxurious alien ship, staring at the beam before him, he realized that this might be the only chance he would ever have to escape his misery. And so, despite his doubts, Jack agreed. He didn't know where this strange deal would take him, but one thing was certain. He was about to embark on an unexpected journey, and the bond he would form with Blue might just be the key to unlocking a new life, one neither of them had anticipated. The offer. Jack's mind raced as he stepped across the threshold of the airlock. The moment his feet touched the sleek metallic floors of the alien vessel, an odd feeling settled over him. It wasn't fear, though there was plenty of that. It was more like stepping into a dream, a reality that didn't seem quite real. He had been a part of the fabric of New Boston for so long, scraping by in a world that felt like it belonged to someone else. But now, as he stood inside this alien ship, he felt as though he had crossed into a new dimension, one that was beyond his comprehension. The interior was a stark contrast to his cramped, decaying apartment. The walls were smooth, a luminous material that shifted in color, reacting to the faintest touch of light. The lighting was soft, almost ethereal, casting everything in hues of pale blue and violet. The air felt different too, thicker somehow, with a slight hum that Jack could feel in his bones. It was the kind of space that felt both welcoming and unfamiliar, as though it wasn't quite meant for humans. The alien technology surrounding him was nothing like anything he had ever seen. The ship's surface seemed to breathe, almost alive, responding to each movement with subtle shifts and pulses of light. "Welcome aboard, Jack," Blue's voice echoed in his mind once more, smooth and calming. Jack's eyes widened as he tried to adjust to the sensation of hearing someone else's voice inside his head. It wasn't invasive or harsh. In fact, it was almost soothing, like a gentle whisper in the back of his mind. Blue, the alien whose appearance had initially struck Jack with awe, now stood just a few feet away. Their skin, a deep shade of blue, shimmered softly in the light, almost translucent in places. Their long, lithe frame was adorned with shimmering garments that looked like they were made from some organic, flowing material. Their features were striking, with sharp cheekbones and eyes that glowed faintly. 4 of them, arranged symmetrically across their face. But it was their presence that truly captivated Jack. It wasn't just the physical beauty of the alien. It was something deeper, something Jack couldn't quite place, that made him feel simultaneously insignificant and utterly fascinated. "You must be wondering why I brought you here," Blue continued, their voice soft yet steady. "I've been observing your species, Jack. I find humans intriguing. You have a remarkable capacity for connection, for adaptation. No matter your differences, no matter your hardships, you form bonds that are stronger than most species I've encountered." Jack stood still, his mind processing everything as he listened. Despite his initial reluctance, there was something about Blue that made him want to understand. This alien, who seemed to have everything, was alone, more alone than Jack had ever felt. The wealth, the power, none of it seemed to matter in the face of such profound isolation. "I'm lonely, Jack," Blue confessed, a hint of sorrow in their voice, though their expression remained calm. "I was once part of a collective, a group of beings who shared not only minds but emotions. It was the way we lived, the way we thrived. But I was exiled. I supported the wrong faction in a political dispute, and as a result, I was cast out. I no longer have anyone to share my thoughts with, no one to connect with. I am isolated in the truest sense of the word." Jack couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for Blue. The alien's loneliness mirrored his own, and for a brief moment, he wondered if this was just another cruel twist of fate, or something more meaningful. Blue had everything. A ship that could traverse galaxies, wealth beyond comprehension, technology that far surpassed anything humanity had created, yet they were alone. And here Jack was, someone who had nothing, no money, no future, no hope. And yet, in this moment, he had something Blue craved, the ability to form real, human connections. "I can see the loneliness in you," Jack said quietly, without thinking. It wasn't an accusation, it was just a simple observation, something that had been bothering him ever since he'd first seen Blue through the yacht's window. The alien's eyes softened at his words, and they nodded slowly. "Yes, you are right. I have everything, Jack, but I do not have the one thing I need most. I cannot exist in this state much longer. My species requires constant emotional connection to stay mentally healthy. Without it, I will wither." The weight of Blue's words hung heavy in the air. Jack felt the gravity of their meaning. After a long pause, Blue finally spoke again, and their voice was even more measured now, as though they had made a decision. "That is why I have an offer for you, one that could solve both of our problems." Jack frowned, trying to make sense of what he was hearing. "What do you mean?" "I need someone to live with me, someone I can connect with on a deep level," Blue explained. "Someone to share meals, thoughts, and experiences with. I've studied your species, Jack, and I believe humans can form bonds in ways that we cannot. I am asking you to be my companion." The words hit Jack like a sudden storm, his mind swirling with disbelief and confusion. A companion. It sounded too simple to be true, yet it also felt like a lifeline, a chance to escape the suffocating grip of his life. But then the doubt crept in. Was it a trick? Was Blue offering him something that came with hidden strings attached? "Wait, I don't understand," Jack said, his voice hoarse. "What's the catch? Why me? You've never even met me before. I'm just a guy who cleans ships. I'm nobody." Blue tilted their head slightly, their 4 eyes glimmering with something akin to curiosity. "You are not just a guide, Jack. I have observed humans, and you are resilient. You are adaptable. You may not have wealth or status, but you possess something far more valuable. A genuine ability to connect with others, even when it seems impossible. I need that, Jack. I need you." Jack's mind raced as he processed the offer. His first instinct was to refuse. It seemed too good to be true, a fantasy that could never become a reality. He had nothing to offer an alien who could change the very course of their own fate. Yet, as he stood in front of Blue, he saw something in their eyes. A deep longing, an aching need that mirrored his own. Maybe this wasn't just a random chance. Maybe this was fate knocking at his door. "I can pay off your debts, set you up with a comfortable life." Blue continued, their voice almost pleading. "I'll provide everything you need, and in return, I ask for only one thing: your companionship. I need someone to understand me, to share my existence with, someone who can teach me about humanity, about emotions, connections, what it means to truly live." For a long moment, Jack stood frozen in place, his thoughts a tangled mess of hope and doubt. What did he have to lose? He had nothing now, nothing except his crushing loneliness and his debts. But this could change everything. He could escape the life he had known, the world that had been suffocating him for so long. Finally, he spoke, his voice quieter than before, but filled with an unshakable resolve. "All right. I'll do it. I'll be your companion." Blue's eyes glowed brighter, and for the first time, Jack saw a flicker of genuine warmth in the alien's expression. "You have made a wise choice, Jack. I promise you, this will change both our lives." And so, with that simple agreement, Jack's life took a turn he never could have anticipated. What began as a simple encounter between a lonely alien and a struggling human would soon evolve into a bond that would bridge the vast divide between their species. The deal had been struck, but what lay ahead was beyond anything either of them could have imagined. New beginnings. Jack's agreement to become Blue's companion had felt like an impulsive decision, one born from a mixture of uncertainty, curiosity, and desperation. But as the ship's airlock closed behind him, sealing him inside the vessel, he couldn't help but feel a strange sense of relief. This was a step into the unknown, a leap into a life that was so far removed from everything he had known that it almost felt like a dream. But Blue's promise had been clear, a chance for something more, something better. Jack couldn't quite grasp the full weight of it, but he had no choice now but to go forward. The ship itself was unlike anything Jack had ever seen. The sleek, flowing lines of its design were a stark contrast to the crumbling cityscape he had left behind on New Boston. The walls were made of a living material, smooth, pulsating surfaces that seemed to breathe as he walked through the corridors. The lighting, soft and shifting, bathed the interior in hues of soft lavender and cyan, creating an atmosphere that felt almost surreal. It was a vessel meant for someone with wealth beyond imagination, yet its heart, Jack realized, was lonely. He had been brought here to fill that void, though the question remained whether he could. Blue led him to a spacious lounge, one that was designed for comfort yet was distinctly alien. The furniture was soft and organic, curving in ways Jack couldn't quite explain. There were windows that offered stunning views of the cosmos, but they felt almost too beautiful, like something out of a fantasy. The stars outside were a vast, swirling tapestry of light, distant worlds, and nebula that made Jack's head spin. He had never seen the universe like this before, close up, in such detail, yet it all felt so distant from his life on Earth. His gaze flickered back to Blue, who had taken a seat on a nearby cushion. Their presence was calm, serene, but there was an underlying sadness that Jack couldn't ignore. Blue might be the one who had invited him into this grand, luxurious ship, but it was clear to Jack that the alien was as much a prisoner of their circumstances as he had been. "I know this is all new to you," Blue said, their voice soft but steady. "I should have explained more before, but I wanted you to see it for yourself. We are far from the world you know, Jack. But I do not want you to feel like a guest. I want you to feel at home here." Jack nodded slowly, his mind still grappling with the enormity of the situation. The reality of his new life was settling in, but there was still a strange sense of disbelief. How could someone like him, someone who had spent his days cleaning the ships of the wealthy, be in this place, surrounded by a being who could offer him so much? The enormity of it was overwhelming. And yet, he had never felt more seen. Blue wasn't asking for his service. They were asking for his companionship, his presence in a way that felt genuine. "I'm not used to this kind of life," Jack admitted, his voice carrying a weight of vulnerability. He glanced around the room again. "I've never seen anything like this before. And I've certainly never met anyone like you." Blue smiled, a soft, knowing expression. "I understand. That is why I chose you. You are different from the others I have encountered. You have a strength that I lack, a quiet resilience. My people, we thrive on connection, on shared emotions, but that has been stripped away from me. I have spent years alone, and it has begun to affect my mind. The isolation is unbearable." Jack felt a pang of empathy for Blue, an alien whose emotional needs were so complex, so tied to the very fabric of their being. It was hard for Jack to comprehend fully. His own loneliness, while intense, had never been driven by the same deep-seated need for emotional connection. Yet, as he looked into Blue's 4 eyes, he realized that their loneliness was just as real as his. The offer, this bizarre arrangement, seemed to make more sense now. "I'm not sure what you expect from me," Jack said, his voice tentative, "but I'll try. I don't know how much help I can be, but I can listen. And I can talk. Maybe that's enough." Blue nodded, their gaze softening. "That is exactly what I need, Jack. We do not need grand gestures. We need the simple, everyday moments that can form a connection. I need someone who can show me the world through human eyes. Someone who can help me understand the emotions I've lost touch with." For a long moment, Jack sat silently, absorbing what Blue had said. The enormity of the situation was still fresh, but there was something comforting about the aliens' vulnerability. Blue, with all their power, wealth, and technology, was still searching for something basic, a connection, a companion. It wasn't a mission. It wasn't a transaction. It was a shared need, one that transcended species and circumstance. As the ship drifted through the stars, Jack's mind wandered to the strange reality he now found himself in. He had made a deal with an alien who could easily have enslaved him, forced him into some form of servitude. But instead, Blue had offered him something much more delicate, a bond, a partnership. It was so different from anything Jack had ever known, and it terrified him. He wasn't sure what would happen next, or if he was even capable of fulfilling Blue's needs. But in the silence that followed Blue's confession, Jack felt something stir in him. The flickering spark of hope, the idea that maybe, just maybe, this could be the beginning of something greater. "I'll give it a try," Jack finally said, his voice steady. "I'll be here. I'll stay. And I'll help however I can." Blue's 4 eyes brightened, and a wave of warmth swept through Jack, almost like a soft current that caressed his very being. It wasn't just the alien's gratitude that Jack felt. It was something more profound, something that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. For the first time in his life, Jack felt truly seen, not just as someone to be pitied or overlooked, but as someone of value. "Thank you," Blue said, their voice soft, resonating in Jack's mind. "You have no idea how much this means to me." Jack nodded, feeling a lump form in his throat. He didn't have the words to explain what he felt, but he knew this was the start of something neither he nor Blue could have predicted. They had both been lonely, isolated, yearning for something they didn't even know they were missing. But now, in this vast, cold expanse of space, they had found each other. As the stars continued to glide past them, Jack realized that this moment, the moment when they chose to share something so simple, so human, was the most important thing he had ever done. The deal wasn't just about surviving anymore. It was about living, about forming a connection that could carry both of them forward into the unknown depths of the universe. And so, the strange companionship between the broken human and the lonely alien began, each of them unknowingly embarking on a journey that would test not only their connection to one another, but their understanding of what it meant to be truly alive.